Hi guys, so my talk today is with the author Sheila Alexander, and the way I came across her is because I was noticing her artwork on Instagram, and I was really drawn to her comics. They're these little panels that go on for a couple panels, and they're kind of silly and kind of sweet and beautiful. Um, she has her new book out, and I would recommend anyone that is struggling or has struggled with in vitro fertilization or infertility issues, check it out. I think it's really special. And in her talk today, she gives some of us who haven't struggled with it some tips on how to be mindful around others that aren't in your same situation. So, um, all of you that are struggling, I love you. I wish you the best. And I love all you listeners. Thanks for checking out this interview, and I will talk to you after the interview. Hi, guys. Today's interview with Sheila is brought to us by Dr. Kane's Comics and Games. My friend Pat and Nicole, they run Dr. Kane's, and they're at 778 Marsh Street. They have 53 five-star reviews on Yelp.com, and I'd give them 5 stars too. It's a must-see shop. It's not just comic books and graphic novels, though they have an incredible selection. They've also got beautiful children's books, English and Spanish. They've got art supplies for artists, pens and paints. And my favorite, right at the front of their store, they have t-shirts with local landmark designs on them, and it's by Live Local Apparel. So if you need a shirt for your dad's birthday and you want to get him a shirt with the Fremont Theater on it because you guys go see movies there, it's a super cool selection over there, and they are super knowledgeable, super friendly, super laid back. So if you're intimidated because you don't know anything about comics but you'd love to get one for your nephew, go and they'll help you get something amazing. And they are on Facebook. They put their recommendations up every week, so go check them out and shop local. I love you, Dr. Kane's. Thank you for sponsoring us. Talk to you guys after the interview. Bye. I'm here with my friend Sheila. I want to introduce her to you. She is a new author. She's written a graphic novel, aka a graphic memoir. It's called If, a Memoir of Infertility. And I am so excited to have her here to talk to us about creating this book and about her journey to motherhood. Hi, Sheila.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I found you on Instagram, and your little comic started popping up in my feed, and I think I have a few thousand followers, but yours was one that I was like, oh, it's Sheila. Oh, it's Sheila. What's she doing today? Like, you were really someone that stood out to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are so beautiful. I really want to meet you and know you, and I kind of feel like I do know you from your comics, you know?
Thanks.
It's really neat. Okay, so you wrote this book, and in the book, you illustrate that, like a lot of young women, you had been trying not to get pregnant, and that was normal, and then you had the shift where you and your husband were ready to have a baby, and you guys were trying and trying, and then you realized you should see a doctor. So I know that this journey of infertility can be really isolating because people don't talk about it, just like they don't talk about miscarriages and other issues with having a baby. So I wanted to ask you, there was a part in the book where you had made an appointment with your doctor to retrieve some eggs, and something went wrong. So your husband noticed that you weren't feeling well, and I knew about this from your book, and then you called into a Boston radio program, Maddie in the Morning, to talk about how you almost died from this process. I had never known that that was a possibility. Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, it was actually funny. I was looking at I was just thinking back to that situation. So it's called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. and they warn you about it when you're signing the consent to treatment. And I dug out of my files what the consent to IVF treatment looks like. It's like this book. So on this is how much can go wrong during IVF, for all the different outcomes, and they cover everything, like from, you know, whether or not, like, because they're just measuring your follicles leading up to the egg retrieval surgery. So they're like, there might not even be an egg in your follicle. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. On page 12, it says the most serious side effect of ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome can include increased ovarian size, nausea, vomiting, accumulation of fluid in the abdomen, breathing difficulties, and increased concentration of red blood cells, kidney and liver problems, and in the most severe cases, blood clots, kidney failure, or death, period. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, page 12 of my consent form. And I'm like, I'm going to sign this anyway. Like, I'm gonna go through with this. But when they mentioned like or death, I'm kind of like, I look at my husband and I'm like, and I'm reading this like really carefully, and I'm like, I could die. Like, this is serious. And you know, you don't think anything's gonna happen. It's like they give you the percentages. It's just like, oh, there's only like point something percent, you know. And so I didn't think anything of it. I'm just like, oh, okay. But that little blurb was what convinced my husband that we should definitely pay the extra money and do genetic screening for our embryos after the fact. So going into the surgery, we had to give them the information. We're like, we are going to do genetic screening, which it could cost minimum $4,000, but depending on how many you get, the price goes up from there at our clinic. But so anyway, so my husband was like, okay, like, we want our success rates great, especially if this surgery is so risky. So, you know, I go into it. So leading up to it, in my book, I talk about how, you know, having all sorts of like adverse effects from the injections. So those are like what stimulates your ovaries to start producing the follicles. So like, I don't know, we get it, like, you have some questions about it later, but it's like when I'm bleeding severely and I'm having all sorts of other effects. That's from the stimulation drugs. So anyway, so stuff was going horribly wrong like the whole time. And then day of the surgery, I just remember like going to bed, have everything ready, laid out, and like, I'm ready for the surgery. Tomorrow is the day. It's gonna be over. I like wake up like hours before I'm supposed to, in so much pain. I'm like hobbling to the bathroom. I like have to get down the stairs to like leave the house for the surgery. I can't even walk. I literally go to the top of my stairs and I like butt scoot all the way down. I'm like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna get to the car. Like, Boston's notorious for like their potholes everywhere. So I'm just like in the car holding onto the edge. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I can't do this. I'm like screaming at my husband about all the potholes. I'm like in my head, I'm like, this can't be normal. Like, something is wrong. And I'm like in the waiting room. I'm looking at the people. I'm like, is anyone else in as much pain as I'm in? And like everyone else looked like normal, and I'm like, and I look like I'm about to die. So I go into like the surgery, and my husband had to go home. He left me before the surgery too. I was all alone because there was electricians doing a house project here. So my husband left me, and I'm like with the nurse, and I'm like, so my like ovaries hurt really bad. Like, I can't walk. And they're like, oh, so you feel a little full. That's like totally normal. I'm like, no, like little full doesn't even start. Like, I feel horrible. And so anyway, so I get in there, the like nurse is kind of like dismissing me. She's like wicked young. It's like probably her first like week or two or year on the job. She's like, because I overhear her like bragging about her college experience to someone else while she's, you know, not attending to me. And I'm like over there like freaking out. Because I accidentally take a sip of water. They tell me I have to be awake for surgery. On and on this goes. Anyway, I'm in so much pain, which is like, I just can't wait for this to be over. So I go in, awake. So I was able to accurately illustrate my surgery because I was awake for it. Then I leave the surgery, and they're like, oh yeah, you did great, blah, blah, blah. They're like, what's your pain like? I'm like, horrible. It's still horrible. They're like, oh, well, we'll give you more drugs. I'm like, okay, great, drugs. And they're like, all right, you're stabilized. We're discharging you. I'm like, your mom's in the waiting room, because my husband was with the electricians, you know, like super supportive, you know. So my mom like picks me up. She's like, oh, how are you feeling? I'm like, awful, like horrible. I'm like hobbling out of here. I'm like on like as much painkillers they could probably give me, and I still feel like crap. And I'm like, and they give me a pamphlet though. They give me this little like brochure about ovarian hyperstim, and they're like, here's your post-op instructions. So there's like a little like bulleted list of like what you should look for. And I'm like, all right, see you later. And most people have it happen to them like days later. but like my symptoms of it started happening before surgery. So like that's not good. So I got I don't know, I live about 45 minutes away from like the surgical center. So I didn't even make it home before I started vomiting. Like I made my mom pull over on some like side street, and I'm like, stop the car. I have to throw up. My mom's like, what? I'm like, open the door. And so I'm like, you know, I'm like getting sick on the side of the road. I'm like, I don't even care what people think about me, like whatever. So I get home and I'm like, well, that was weird. And so, you know, I settle into bed, and you know, everyone's like, oh, just rest. We'll get you water. Here's your little puke bucket. If you need it, you're good. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm good. And then, like, a few minutes later, I'm just like, I'm nauseous again. Maggie, no. Sorry. Maggie, leave it. Go away. Doggies. So anyway, so I try to lay down and get, like, comfortable and even though I'm still, like, very uncomfortable. And that's when it happens. Like I lay down in bed, and all of a sudden I realize I'm short of breath, and I'm like, that's strange. So I sit up, and it gets a little bit better. I'm like, all right. So then I try to get comfy in bed again, and I'm like, no, I can't breathe. I'm like, crap. So my husband's downstairs, so I'm like, come up here. I'm like, I can't breathe. Like this is like messed up. And I'm like, am I just anxious? Like, is it because I'm sick? And then I start like vomiting like uncontrollably again. Like it's like horrible. So it's like I can't breathe. And I'm like uncontrollably vomiting. I'm like, this is awful. And then my husband busts out his little card. He's like, wow, those are on my card. Those are your symptoms. To the hospital. And I'm like, oh God, what's the closest hospital? And so in my head, I picked one hospital because I had a good experience there in the ER before. They were very fast and efficient. I was like, we'll go there. So we went there, but I made the wrong choice because apparently they didn't have an OB department there. So the ER doctor had no idea what this was. My husband has his little card. He's like, I think she has ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome because it's on this card. And so the ER doctor's like x-raying me, and because I'm like, I can't breathe. So they're x-raying my lungs and like, you're fine. Is it anxiety? Are you having a panic attack? And I'm like, I will in a second. Because like at this point I like really can't breathe, and so I have to sit through like I'm still in a horrible amount of pain. Like it like I guess these sensations kind of like I felt like someone was like stabbing me in like both lungs with like knives. Like
scary.
I couldn't breathe no matter like how deep of a breath I got. Like I never felt like satisfied. So it was like the scariest thing ever. And additionally, I was just vomiting over and over and over again. So like that's unpleasant as it is. Never mind, like can't breathe and I'm doing that. So I'm getting like super dehydrated. So they're like getting IVs of like fluid. And then I'm there for like, I got to the ER at 3:00, but it was like well into the evening that I finally got a CT scan. So you have to lay down for those. So, and that's the problem. The doctor kept trying to have me lay down. I'm like, I'm not laying down because it got like, I couldn't breathe at all if I laid down. And so eventually the kind people in the CT scan people were able to give me like as much painkillers they could possibly give me. They gave me pillows to prop me up as much as I could be propped up to go through the machine. And that's when they were like, holy crap, your entire abdomen is filled with fluid.
Oh,
Crushed by fluid. I'm like, yeah, no crap. I'm drowning in fluid. Like you can't see it in x-ray because there's nothing in my lungs. And so like technically my like oxygen blood levels were okay, but it was a sensation that I was like drowning / being stabbed in the lungs. It was lovely. So, and I was vomiting over and over again. So it was like a very fun, scary event. So, that's what ovarian hyperstimulation is, and it's just like crazy because you know you think about your ovaries for like you know getting your period and ovulating. That's where your eggs come from. But I don't even really understand the science of this, but apparently if they get overly stimulated with all these like hormones and fertility drugs, they can apparently fill up your entire chest cavity with fluid and crush your lungs and kill you.
my goodness. I've taken health education in high school. I've taken human anatomy. I've taken human sexuality. I've gone through classes in hospitals. I've literally never heard of that before.
Yeah, I think it's a very specific side effect of IVF.
I'm so happy that your husband acted quickly and wasn't the type to say you're overreacting. That's really amazing you got help, and I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm so glad that you're okay.
Yeah, and it was like I had to get transferred to Boston Hospital because I had to find a doctor who actually knew what was happening. So I had to go over to the bumpy road in the ambulance all over again. And my poor parents had booked a vacation the day after my surgery, and I just looked like I was going to die any second. So my parents didn't go away, and I felt horrible. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Well, that was a gift that they could give to you that show that you're their baby and they want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
I think those doctors will from now on remember your story and be able to help others. So.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The doctor's like, oh, I brushed up on what it is. I was like, brushed up? I was like, what are you Googling it?
Yeah, it's never great to be a guinea pig on something in that front. But speaking of doctors, were there any doctors or nurses or anyone in your life that were exceptionally, amazingly kind to you during this journey?
I don't the IVF doctors, like they're like great, and the nurses are great, but they're sorry, doggy. They're great, but they're very matter of fact. They just give you like, the information like that you need to know at the time you need it. Like they don't want to get your hopes up. They don't want to tell you what's coming next, because depending on how you respond to like something, like anything can happen. So yeah, they're like, they call you, they tell you, the results, but they keep it very scientific. They're not very warm. They're not very like supportive, but that's really not their job, because IVF could just go on for an infinite amount of time.
Okay.
Never, be successful. So I think they gave me the care I needed, but they weren't like overly like warm. So,
Yeah.
but someone who was really like supportive and throughout my treatment was probably my acupuncturist, because I could just like kind of go there, I could vent, and she would help me along, and I would just kind of like try to visualize like what was going on with my body, and like try to like feel like, like the energy flowing like through like the acupuncture. So that was like always like a really like positive, relaxing experience.
Well, that's a good thing to keep in mind for people that are struggling with infertility, is to find someone who's not going to be all business and someone that could be holistic with your health. So back when our parents were starting their families, they probably didn't have the in vitro options. So do you feel like with your parents, your other relatives, and just people you come in contact with, that you have to be a teacher? Because like I said, this isn't taught.
Yeah.
You know about, so you have to keep explaining what's going on.
Yeah, and to some extent. In my family, though, we're different. I know, like, IVF's like a pretty new technology, so most people from like my parents' generation and before, like, don't really understand. But for me, my mother's sister had to go through IVF in the 1980s, like, so she would be one of probably the first patients using this treatment. So she went through. I'm not 100% clear on this because I was really young. I'm not sure when she started, but she went through it for years, and she was not successful. So she went through several rounds, I think, of IVF, and I don't know if like freezing was an option for her, because again, the technology was like really pretty new, but she wasn't able to conceive. So then in my family, like my mom was able to happily and easily conceive like 2 daughters, and everything like was great over there, so I can't like, I don't know, there's a lot of like pain, like kind of unspoken pain in my family, like just because, it was like, I don't know, like my grandmother would be probably like she would pressure my mom to like share us, and, and be like your poor sister. And then my mom like couldn't understand what her sister was going through. Like, and I like kind of was like, okay, like, like that stinks, I guess. But as a kid, you didn't really like understand. And like as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, like I can't even imagine like watching my sister like have this beautiful life, the one I always wanted, and like sitting here like never, being able to conceive. So like, my aunt sometimes like, she's still sad about it, but I give her a lot of credit for being able to, move on with her life and like fulfill it in different ways. Like she has amazing dogs. She ends up now she has like She breeds dogs, and she like pursued like a master's degree. She like teaches at a college, so she really focused on her and her career, and that was her way of like moving on. Like after my book came out, we were like talking about it a little bit, and she was just like, yeah, like I got to a point and I couldn't do it anymore. Like I couldn't go through treatment anymore, and I just needed to like, you know, take back my life and like own it. And you know, and that's like another important part of the journey, is because there's no guarantee that like all the science can help you to start your family. So you have to always think, you know, what if it doesn't work? Like what's next? Like what can I do? You know, and I had to have my like plan B in my head. I'm like, okay, well, I'm drawing these comics, and maybe I'll publish a book, and maybe I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll get my doctorate, because, you know, maybe, you know, I can just like make, you know, my career into, I don't know. So like I had that same kind of plan. It's like, you know, my legacy could not be maybe my children, but maybe like my professional life, and like focus more on that as my plan B.
That's such a healthy thing to do, is to focus on something good. And how heartbreaking for your aunt. I feel like there probably wasn't online support groups and resources that she could go check out who else is walking this road that I am. You had mentioned that you were in support groups. Did you meet some people in there that you wouldn't have otherwise met in your day-to-day life?
Well, actually, you know what? I actively avoided them when I was going through IVF, mostly for like self-preservation. Like now I see that like they're wonderful, and like the whole like Instagram like trying to conceive community is just like so warm and amazing. And I see people posting, you know, heartbreaking news or really joyful news about, you know, getting a positive, and I just like and I see there's like, you know, you can see both sides of it. But then when I was going through it, I was just like so depressed that I couldn't take any like positive news. I'm like, what if I joined a support group and everyone was getting pregnant except for me? Like, and I'm like, I don't think I could deal with it. Like, I just kind of like, I don't know, I like purposely closed myself off and just kind of used my art and like journaled like my own individual journey, because I don't think I could have, I don't know, like processed it. I was having a lot of trouble, like anything could like, you know, set me off. So I just kind of avoided it. And like, you know, you're sitting up late at night, like Googling symptoms, Googling your feelings, Googling your medications. Like, it's just like the whole like IVF experience is just like, it's all consuming. Like you're going into work, but oh wait, you have to stop and get your blood drawn. You have to go to the pharmacy and get your drugs. Oh wait, packages of drugs are arriving on your doorstep like Amazon, and you're like, you go in your fridge and it's just like filled with needles. You have all your like needle disposal stuff like littering your bathroom. It's just like everywhere you look. And like, I just, I don't know. I just didn't think I could. I probably needed an online support group. It probably would have been healthy, but I just I didn't think I could handle like the good news part. And I think if I focused on like the negative too much, like it would have made me, I don't know, maybe it would have brought me down. So I don't know. And now the irony is like on the other side, I am using these support groups, and I am like very much enjoying listening to podcasts and hearing other people's stories. And I'm like, oh, they're like just like me. I should have talked to them way earlier. Like my story's not unique. I just didn't right where I am, you know. So I don't know. In hindsight, I wish I had the courage to join the community earlier. But I don't know. The whole IVF thing was just like so scary. I was like afraid to reach out to people. So yeah.
Now, I on the other hand did not have a hard time getting pregnant. And I am more aware today that there are so many people struggling to get pregnant that would love to have a baby. So when I had my first baby girl 6 years ago, I felt like I was just blissfully ignorant and not really aware of what people were struggling with. And today I am aware, but I just still don't know. I don't want to be hurtful to anyone, but I don't know. Am I posting too much? Is this... I don't want to upset anyone. So is it anything for me to be aware of as a problem, or is it something that if someone's going to be triggered, it's up to them to pull away? Do you know what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah, I know, I understand. You know what? I don't think I unfriended anybody. Like, I mean, all my friends are having babies. You know, like I look back and like especially like I was going through all this about 2 years ago. Actually, I was reminded by one of my friends. It was literally 2 years ago today. I was told that my cycle was going to be canceled. So like the babies who are now, you know, like 1 or like 3, I'm like, those, I remember like the pregnancy announcements, and but like I didn't like lose touch with those friends. Like I didn't unfriend them from like Facebook, you know. I kind of was like, you know, I was like, oh, good for them. Like I think the monthly updates on Bump were like especially painful, because I'm like, do you really need to take a picture of your belly every month? Like I don't need to see that. Like I think that was like the only thing. But like, you know, I enjoyed seeing like my friends' kids like grow, and I love their kids. Like I mean, and if I needed to like, you know, pull away, like I can choose the content I want to see. But I think what was like really helpful, like one of my really, really close friends, she had a daughter right before like I really started like going, like at the very beginning of my treatment, she was pregnant, and I was like, I'm gonna have a baby, and our babies are gonna be like growing up together like any month now. I'll totally conceive it. Like her daughter's getting older and older and older, and I'm like, any day now I'm gonna have, you know, your daughter's best friend, and her daughter's getting older and older. Oh, okay, maybe not. So then I'm like still trying, and this was 2 years ago, like exactly, and it was July because it was almost my birthday, and my friend got pregnant with her second, and she knew I was like trying and trying for, you know, those like 2 years in between her kids, and she was like, and she knew my transfer was coming up, and that was the one that got canceled, and she was like, oh no, Sheila just got her transfer canceled, but I just found out I'm pregnant. Like, what am I going to do? And so my friend just called me, and she's like, I know you probably don't want to hear this, and I know your thing just got canceled, but I wanted to tell you first. Like, me and my husband are pregnant. We're expecting our second, and I just didn't want, you know, you to find out later and be hurt by it. And I'm so sorry, you know, that your transfer got canceled, but like, you know, next month you're going to do this, like, you know, and it was like super painful, and I had to like process that. But like having her tell me like super early, like it was like she got a positive pregnancy test, and she like came to me, like she was like, I'm pregnant and I want you to know. And I so appreciated that, because it wasn't like 4 months in, it was like when anything could happen, you know. It was like very early, and I just like, it hurt, but it would have hurt like way worse if she waited, you know. So I really like appreciate that.
How thoughtful of her.
Yeah, she was awesome. Like, and she had like her healthy daughter, and she was just like, you know, like I would hang out with her and her daughter, and I would just like, you know, any month now, she's just like, yeah, how's your treatment going? And she would just be like, hey, how's it going? And like she's treating me like a mom. Like, and I think that was the difference. It's like, she's like, I'm a mom, here's my daughter. You're a mom, you're like fighting for your embryos. You're doing all the stuff that moms do. Like, you're a mom, and you know, just like, you know, treating me like, you know, like one of the moms, like, even though, you know, I had embryo babies, you know, or not even embryo babies. They were like pre-collected, or I was going through IUI, or like whatever else was part of my journey. You know, she was just like, I mean, it's like, you know, the sacrifices you make for your children and for your family. It's like, you know, my friend got that, and it was like, I think it really helped to like save our relationship, even though we were in like totally different places.
I think you told a part in the book that you were really struggling. You were bleeding so much. You were bleeding through your pads. You realized you were out of pads. You were too dizzy to drive. So you text your friend, what are you up to? I'm struggling. And she was there in 15 minutes. And it was like, made me think of this quote. It was like Mae West or some old-timey actress. She's like, it's the friends you can call at 4 a.m. that matter. And I'm like, oh, it's the friends you can call for a pad.
Yeah.
Who will come running with maxi pads and tampons that matter.
Yeah, I was so impressed with how fast she could be in the store with like a bundle. Like, and it wasn't that she went to the store, it's that she went in her bathroom and just raised whatever she could find. She's like, I got all this stuff, like, I don't know what you like, but here it is. And I'm
good. She came and took care of you.
Yeah, I was calling to see if you could take these CVS like down the street, but I'll take your stuff. That saves me a trip. All right, cool. You know, so yeah, she was amazing. So yeah, those are probably like my two best friends. Like, so one of my friends was a mom, and was supportive in one way, and then my other friend wasn't a mom yet. She's now a mom, but she came running over. That was when like the drugs, like they don't like those hormone drugs make you feel so that. Like that's like I don't know, and they're like it's just endless. You're always on them. I don't know. So that was the Gonal F, I think it was, is what I was taking. It's an injection. It's one of the fun ones that you have to grab your belly fat and like shove the needle in like once to twice a day. so I don't know. That one was making me lose a lot of blood for whatever reason, and I was like, is this normal? They're like, well, how many overnight pads are you filling up per an hour? And I'm like, well, I'm not doing it quite every hour. So they're like, okay, well, when it's every hour, go to the ER.
Maybe we can be mindful that if we're struggling and we're in a position that you were in, just ask. Just ask. Don't fake that you're okay when you're not okay. So,
I don't know how I got through work. Because I was at work. Because I don't know. I'm a teacher, and you just don't want to leave your classroom. You don't want to call out sick because if you leave, God forbid, like you don't know what's gonna happen. So you just like suffer through whatever because you're like I don't want the kids to fall behind. So I'm like sitting there like teaching. I'm like, I'm just really glad I wore black pants today. Like black is a good color for this because I don't even want to know. So I did eventually have to miss work for my ovarian hyperstim situation. It made me miss 2 weeks of work because I couldn't breathe. So, and that's when I had to tell my coworkers what was going on because you just can't disappear for 2 weeks without questions. So that was fun.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience and cluing us into what's going on. Your book ended, and I read it in one evening. It ended, and it was like a good movie. I was like, oh, I'm ready for it to keep going. Like, where's part 2? I want to see what you're up to. Do you think you're going to have an interest in writing a book about your postpartum, your pregnancy journey, your childbirth journey, or postpartum?
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I think I was just a little burnt out after like the whole IVF experience and like in like journaling and like doing the comics stuff. I took a break through my pregnancy journey, and I was like, maybe I regret it. But I'm like, there's a lot of pregnancy books out there already. Like, that like my pregnancy is not, anything special. I am thinking about writing a breastfeeding comic because I don't know. I was just like told like when you're pregnant, they're like, oh yeah, breastfeeding, it's great. You should breastfeed. It's the best thing for your baby. You should try it. I'm like, all right, yeah, breastfeeding is gonna save me money. It's gonna be natural. All right, I'm gonna breastfeed. And then you like baby comes, the milk comes. You're like, this is freaking hard. Like what the, and you're like, does the baby latch? Is he eating enough? And all that. In addition to your whole body's like all wonky. And then dealing with that, then everyone's like, then all of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to feed my baby. And then all of a sudden you're offending people left and right. You're like, I'm sorry. Like, baby needs to eat like every hour. Like, I am going to feed baby wherever. And so the controversy and the drama around breastfeeding, I was like, I had no idea. I'm like, I thought it was like, 2018 and like people were over this, like, but apparently not. I had a lot of, not so kind things happen to me through breastfeeding. So that's when I started busting out my my journal again, like writing down like little episodes that were happening to me, like whether or not it was like, just the gear needed or like the stupid like places you'd find yourself nursing or, the experience like going back to work and trying to pump and just trying to arrange for all that. I don't know. I kind of, I don't know, I was very frustrated and angry, and that's when I, start doodling again.
I think you have a gift in sharing the horrific stuff in a humorous, like life is beautiful kind of way, and I would love to buy your book if you decide to do that. I struggled with it too and was surprised at how hard it was to feed my baby. Okay, with my breasts and with formula, it's just hard. And
yes,
I got pregnant in 2012, and I feel like not as many celebrities were showing that they were breastfeeding and normalizing it, and so I was so ashamed back then, and now it's a little bit better, but I was still struggling with it with my second girl. Anyways, I had written down that I wanted to ask you, what was the greatest act of kindness that you received as a new mother, and what was something that you would tell someone to do for a new mom if they're with baby?
So I love my OBGYN doctor. She's amazing. I just remember coming for my like postpartum appointment, and I remember being home from the hospital not knowing what the heck was going on with my newborn, and I binge watched the Netflix show The Letdown, and I was like, how magical. These mothers have this mom group and this support, and like they're learning from each other and they're supporting each other. I wish I had that. So I like going and like talking to my doctor about this awesome series. I was like, are there any mom groups that you know about? And my doctor is like, actually, two of my patients said they just joined this awesome mom group over at there's a Jewish family center near us. And I was like, oh, they're having meetings. So I'd like zoom over and I come to the mom group, and I had by far the youngest baby. Like me and my 2-week-old son were like there, ready to make friends. And
Yeah.
He's so tiny. I'm like, but we're here.
Ready to talk?
Yeah, so
Ready to make memories.
that was amazing. The facilitator of the group was amazing. Like it was just like they were like so welcoming. Like the other moms were like, you know, it was like I had all these like mom friends. They could share advice. Like I obviously had the youngest kid for a while, and so I could kind of hear their stories and see what was coming, and like, you know, get little pointers. And so like I don't know, I had like an amazing like. It was amazingly hard, but also like an amazingly special like summer last year with my son, and just trying to like navigate this new world of motherhood. So yeah, that mom group was like amazing. So.
I was curious as we wrapped things up, is there anything that I missed that was on your heart today? Is there anything that you wanted to share with listeners about how to treat others in a kind way?
I guess just like, you know, just assume like you never know what people are going through. Like just because you look like together or you look healthy doesn't mean, you know, you're not facing something really challenging or really difficult or emotionally draining. And I don't know, like my boss, one of the principals in my school, he always wraps up like the staff meetings, and he's just like, you never know what people are going through. Like you might be frustrated with a coworker or annoyed about something going on, but like you have to treat everyone with like kindness and understanding, because you just don't know what's going on. And like I mean I can't, like I wasn't gonna like open up about what's going on with me to like my coworkers, but you know I might have been, you know, grumpy or irritable, like especially when I had to like work in the same room as like a pregnant coworker of mine, you know, and I'm just like, you know, I might have not always been kind, but like, you know, I'm hoping like, you know, they can maybe forgive me for whatever, because you know it was just like really tough, and you know I was doing the best I could, even though I might have not always been kind or happy, you know. So I don't know. I'm trying to like take a step back before I judge someone or feel offended by what someone does if they snap at me, because you know you don't know what they're going through.
That is fantastic advice for everyone. You just nailed it. You hit the nail on the head. I want to show my book that you sent to me.
Oh, thanks.
This is amazing. I would like to recommend this anyone. It's available anywhere books are sold, right? Go to Amazon. You can have it in a day or two.
Yeah, if your local bookstore wants to carry it, you know, nag them. I got it in some independent stores in Massachusetts. So if you're in the Boston area, it's in the Harvard Coop and the Harvard Bookstore and Porter Square Books. So all my favorites.
Well, congratulations, Sheila, on your beautiful book, which I know people were like, I've written a book. It's like a baby. Your beautiful
I know.
book you've brought into the world, and your baby that you've brought into the world.
I know.
I wish the best for you and your husband as you navigate this exciting next step. And thank you for opening our eyes and our hearts to what many, many, many people are going through.
Yeah. I don't really think my story is like special or unique, but I think a lot of people will find it extremely relatable. And if they have a hard time like articulating, you know, like, why does IVF suck? It's like, here, just read about it, and you know, picture's worth 1,000 words. So
it will be a classic and a great resource, and something that we could recommend people for years to come. So thank you, Sheila. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will definitely be in touch and following you on Instagram.
Oh, thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye.
That was a talk from my friend Sheila, and I'm so thankful that she got to share her and her husband's journey on how they conceived their baby boy. And I hope it educated some of you about what people around you are struggling with, and it gave you some empathy for others around you. And for those of you that have been on this journey too, I hope it provided some comfort for you and some hope. I wanted to let you know that if you wanted to check out this book, there's a lot of ways you could do it. You could order straight off of her website. It's SheilaAlexanderArt.com. You can go into my Amazon storefront. You can find that on my website or on my Instagram. You can also try Dr. Kane's comic shop in San Luis Obispo and check out the book. So Sheila is also on Instagram at SheilaAlexanderArt.com, and you can get a taste for her comics over there. She has a new comic for breastfeeding mamas, and I feel like if you're someone that enjoys the Working Moms show on Netflix or, Sex in the City, it'd kind of be something fun to check out. And as a pumping mom myself, I found it #totally relatable. If you want to check out her ebook, it's on her website, and it's only $5 right now. So check her out, support her, and let's support each other just in general. Happy reading. Happy day. Talk to you guys later. Bye.